humanity is divided. And a divided humanity cannot build the just world that every person of goodwill clamors for. Prejudice is one of the main forces that divides us. Welcome to episode 6 in our series on the 12 foundation stones of the Baha'i Faith. Let's begin by clarifying what we mean by prejudice. At its core, prejudice means prejudging, forming conclusions before we have enough information. It happens when we reduce human beings to labels and then treat those labels as if they define a person's worth, character, or destiny. Martin Luther King Jr. captured the cure for prejudice with simple clarity when he said the people should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His words point to a basic truth. Every human being is a moral individual, not a stand-in for a race, a nation, or a belief system. In the Baha'i Faith, the elimination of prejudice is not presented as a suggestion or a social aspiration. It's considered a commandment. Abdu'l-Bahá states it plainly. As long as prejudice of any kind, whether religious, racial, political, or patriotic, prevails, the world of humanity will not have rest. Notice how broad that statement is. Any kind of prejudice, not only the ones society condemns, not only the ones held by people we personally disagree with, all of them. In the Baha'i Faith, when we become aware of these tendencies in ourselves, we're called to remove them. Baha'u'lláh writes, O children of men, know ye not why we created you all from the same dust, that no one should exalt himself over the other. But here's an important twist. Prejudice has roots, and if we want to eliminate it, we have to understand those roots. One reason prejudice is so persistent is that it meets emotional needs. It simplifies a complicated world. It creates a sense of belonging, an us set apart from a them. For some, it offers a false sense of superiority, gained not through personal effort or achievement, but by belonging to the imagined superior group. There may also be a deeper reason for prejudice. For most of human history, people lived in small groups. Survival often depended on knowing who was familiar and who was not. What lay outside the group could mean danger. In that context, suspicion of outsiders may have once served a biological purpose. But what helped small groups survive cannot guide a global civilization. Instincts shaped for villages and clans are poorly suited for a world of nations, trade, and shared responsibility. Because prejudice offers real emotional rewards, it cannot be eliminated through denial or masking. What is suppressed without being understood doesn't disappear. It often returns in quieter, more dangerous forms. To remove prejudice, we have to understand it. And not only at the personal level, but also how it's shaped, encouraged, and exploited by systems of power. Throughout history, leaders and institutions have learned how easily prejudice can be used to divide people along lines of race, religion, nationality, ideology, while deeper injustices remain unchallenged. When people are trained to see one another as threats or competitors, they are less likely to see how they themselves are being exploited and manipulated. Prejudice becomes a tool of control. It weakens solidarity and prevents people from developing the shared moral courage needed to confront injustice. One of the most powerful systems of control is religion. The clergy has tremendous capacity to shape people's outlooks and expectations. Throughout history, many religious leaders and their followers have passionately exalted figures of the past while rejecting those who fulfilled the very promises those past figures made. This kind of prejudice is especially difficult to recognize because it often disguises itself as piety. Jesus addressed this directly when speaking to those who opposed him. He told them that it was not he who condemned them, but Moses, the very figure they claimed to follow, because Moses had spoken of him. Their fixation on tradition had blinded them to its meaning. This pattern of religious prejudice repeats across history. The religious imagination becomes so attached to inherited expectations and interpretations that it cannot recognize truth when it appears in an unfamiliar form. From a Bahai's under the covenant perspective, this is the prejudice of assuming that truth should arrive exactly as we want it to, or not at all. Humanity has reached a stage of maturity where prejudicial thinking can no longer sustain civilization. At the close of the age, we need to pay heed to the prophets and promised ones who have come to save us from our darkest impulses. We are called to rise above our unexamined habits of thought and learn how to see things as they are, not through the lens of impulse, suspicion, or inherited bias. In our next episode, we take a look at the Baha'i solution to world conflict. You don't want to miss it. In the meantime, visit schooloftheland.com, where we examine humanity's past, its present challenges, and the direction we're being called to.